I never thought I'd be the kind of man to sit down and confess his life to strangers. But here I am, staring at the screen, hands trembling slightly as I type, trying to put into words the story that has consumed me for years. A story about love, betrayal, mistakes, and, against all odds, something like redemption. My name is Daniel. I'm 41 now, but this story began in my early 30s, when I thought I had it all figured out. I was married to Emily, my college sweetheart, the woman who seemed to know me better than anyone else on this earth. We met when we were both 19, still kids trying to navigate dorm rooms and cheap cafeteria meals, and by the time we were 25, we were married. To everyone around us, we were that couple. You know the type, always holding hands, finishing each other's sentences, smiling in photographs like we had stepped out of an advertisement for young, hopeful love. And for a long time, it wasn't a facade. I really did love her. We were partners, best friends, lovers. When we moved into our first home together, an old brick townhouse with creaky floors, we spent hours painting the walls, cooking dinners, collapsing on the couch with wine glasses in our hands. But somewhere along the way, the sparkle faded. It wasn't sudden, it never is. It was gradual. 100 little things that built up over time, her long hours at work, my own exhaustion, the way we started spending more time on our phones than talking in bed, how intimacy became something scheduled rather than spontaneous. By the time I turned 32, I found myself looking at her across the dinner table and wondering when we had stopped laughing the way we used to. Still, I told myself that all marriages go through rough patches. That we'd find our way back. That love was enough. And then I met her. Her name was Claire. It's strange to even write her name now, because it feels like unlocking a door I've kept sealed for years. Claire was a colleague. I worked in a mid-sized marketing agency downtown, and she joined our team as a project coordinator. She was 28 then, with auburn hair that caught the light like fire, sharp green eyes, and a smile that could turn any meeting into something lighter, easier. At first, it was nothing. Just work. She was efficient, funny, and a little sarcastic in a way that made me laugh. We'd share inside jokes during long brainstorming sessions, or grab coffee on breaks. But little by little, those harmless interactions began to feel like something more. The first time I realized I was in trouble was the day she touched my arm. Stupid, right? Just a casual gesture when she was making a point, her hand lingering for half a second longer than it needed to. But it sent a jolt through me, an ache I hadn't felt in years. I went home that night and lay awake next to Emily, listening to her steady breathing, wondering what was wrong with me. I wish I could say I stopped it there. That I pulled away, created distance, protected my marriage. But I didn't. I let myself sink deeper. Coffee breaks turned into late lunches. Work jokes turned into personal confessions. She told me about her own failed relationships, about how she was tired of dating men who never grew up. I told her about Emily, though never the full truth. I painted my marriage as a little rocky, rather than admitting that I felt like I was suffocating in silence. Looking back, I can see how it happened. I was lonely, hungry for attention, and Claire made me feel alive again. With her, I wasn't just Daniel the husband, Daniel the tired employee, I was Daniel who was funny, charming, desirable. The first time we kissed, it was raining. We had stayed late at the office, finishing a campaign proposal, and by the time we left, the streets were slick with water, the air heavy with that electric scent of a summer storm. She offered me a ride since my car was in the shop. We sat in her small gray sedan, the windshield wipers keeping rhythm, and there was this moment, this unbearable silence, when we both turned toward each other. Her eyes flickered to my mouth, and mine to hers. I told myself I shouldn't. I told myself to get out of the car, go home to my wife, forget it. But when her lips touched mine, all those rational thoughts disappeared. The kiss was soft, hesitant at first, but when I leaned in, it deepened, became something urgent and desperate, years of repressed hunger bursting all at once. When we finally pulled apart, both of us breathing heavily, she whispered, "We shouldn't," and I said, "I know." But I didn't stop. That night, lying next to Emily, the guilt was unbearable. I stared at the ceiling for hours, my chest tight, my stomach in knots. I told myself it was just a mistake, that I'd never let it happen again. But the very next week, it happened again. And again. Until what started as stolen kisses in empty conference rooms turned into nights in cheap hotel rooms, where time seemed to blur and all I could think about was her body, her laugh, the way she looked at me as if I was the only man who existed. I was living two lives. By day, I was the dutiful husband, the man who mowed the lawn, paid the bills, smiled politely at neighbors. By night, or during stolen hours of the afternoon, I was someone else entirely. A man consumed by passion, secrecy, the thrill of something forbidden. And as much as I hated myself for it, I couldn't stop. The affair became a rhythm. A dangerous, intoxicating rhythm. I'd wake up next to Emily, kiss her forehead, make us coffee, and head to work pretending my mind wasn't already racing with thoughts of Claire. At the office, we kept up appearances, professional, almost distant in front of others. But the moment we found ourselves alone, the walls crumbled. A brush of her hand, a whisper too close, a secret smile across the room, it was like oxygen to me. And yet, every time I walked through the door of my home, guilt slammed into me. Emily would be there, sometimes curled up on the couch reading a book, sometimes already in bed, and I'd feel this crushing weight pressing down on my chest. She trusted me. She believed in me. And I was betraying her with every lie, every half-truth. There's something people don't tell you about infidelity. It isn't just about passion or lust. It's about deception, and deception seeps into every corner of your life. It changes the way you speak, the way you look at people, the way you breathe. I started catching myself overthinking the smallest things, what story I'd told Emily last week, whether I'd left traces of perfume on my shirt, whether Claire and I had been seen together too often. I was constantly on edge, and yet I kept going back for more. Why? Because Claire had become my escape. With her, the world was sharp and alive. She'd laugh at my stupid jokes, pull me into her arms like she couldn't get enough of me, tell me she needed me in a way Emily hadn't in years. I'd convince myself that what I felt for Claire was love, not just infatuation. And maybe, in its own twisted way, it was. But love built on lies is a fragile thing. The first crack appeared one Saturday morning. Emily and I had been invited to a friend's barbecue, and as I was getting ready, my phone buzzed with a message. I glanced down and saw Claire's name on the screen. My heart skipped, and without thinking, I opened it. "Miss you. Wish you were here instead of with her." I froze. My blood turned cold. Emily was in the next room, humming softly as she got dressed, and here was this message, glowing on my screen like a bomb. I deleted it quickly, my hands shaking, but the paranoia lingered. What if Emily had seen it? What if Claire got careless again? That night, lying beside Emily, I found myself studying her face as she slept. There were faint lines at the corners of her eyes now, the kind that came from years of laughter and stress. She looked peaceful, innocent. And I hated myself for what I was doing to her. I told myself I'd end it with Claire. That it had gone too far, that I couldn't keep risking everything. But when I saw her at work on Monday, with that smile and those eyes, all my resolve vanished. "Did you miss me?" she whispered when no one was around. And I kissed her like a starving man. The cycle continued, desire, guilt, resolve, surrender. Until the day everything shattered. It was a Tuesday afternoon when Emily called me at work, her voice trembling. "Daniel, are you at the office right now?" "Yes," I said too quickly. "Why?" There was a long pause. I drove by. I thought I'd surprise you. But your car wasn't there." My throat went dry. She had caught me. Not directly, not yet, but close enough that panic shot through me. I had to step out for a client meeting, I lied, the words tumbling out before I could stop them. Sorry, I should have told you. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, okay. I'll see you at home. When she hung up, my hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. Claire was watching me, concern etched on her face. What happened? She asked. I couldn't even answer. That night, Emily didn't mention it again. She cooked dinner, asked about my day, smiled like nothing was wrong. But I saw it in her eyes, suspicion. A seed of doubt had been planted. And once doubt takes root, it grows fast. Over the next few weeks, Emily grew quieter, more distant. She'd study me sometimes, her gaze lingering as if she was trying to read my thoughts. She started checking my phone when she thought I wasn't looking, asking more questions about my schedule. I could feel the walls closing in. Meanwhile, Claire grew restless too. She was tired of hiding, tired of being the other woman. One night, lying in the dim light of a motel room, she turned to me and said, "How long are we going to keep doing this, Daniel? Don't you ever think about a future with me?" I froze. A future with her? I hadn't let myself think that far. The truth was, as much as I craved Claire, I couldn't imagine blowing up my entire life, my marriage, everything I'd built with Emily. But I couldn't tell her that. So I kissed her instead, hoping it would silence the question. But it didn't. And I knew, deep down, that the storm was coming. The storm didn't come all at once. It came in whispers, in sharp glances, in conversations that started out ordinary and ended with my stomach twisting. Emily grew sharper in her questions. Who were you texting? Why are you late again? Why do you smell like perfume? I always had answers. Half-truths, improvised lies, flimsy excuses. For a while, she accepted them. Or maybe she just wanted to. But I could feel the trust unraveling between us, thread by thread. Claire, on the other hand, was relentless. She wanted more of me. She wanted nights instead of stolen hours, weekends instead of weekdays. She wanted to be seen with me, not hidden like some shameful secret. You can't keep living like this, Daniel, she said one evening as we sat in her apartment, wine glasses untouched on the coffee table. Do you even realize what you're doing to me? To her. Her words hit hard, but I covered it with defensiveness. You think I don't know? You think this is easy for me? I don't think it's easy, she shot back, her green eyes burning into me. I think you're too scared to make a choice. And she was right. I was terrified. That night, I went home and found Emily sitting in the living room, the lights off, just the glow of a single lamp illuminating her face. She was holding my phone. Daniel, she said quietly, who is Claire? The air was sucked out of the room. My heart stopped. For a second, I thought I could still talk my way out of it, make up a story, explain it away. But the look in her eyes told me she already knew. I sat down across from her, my hands trembling. Emily, don't, she whispered, her voice breaking. Don't lie to me. Just tell me the truth. And for the first time in months, I did. I confessed. Not everything, not the details, not the hotels, not the passionate words whispered in the dark, but enough. Enough for her to know I had betrayed her. Enough to shatter the image of the marriage we'd built. She didn't scream. She didn't throw things. She just sat there, silent tears running down her cheeks, nodding slowly like she had been preparing herself for this moment. Finally, she said, "How long?" "Almost a year," I whispered. She closed her eyes, inhaled sharply, and when she looked at me again, something in her had changed. The warmth, the trust, the softness, it was gone. "I can't even look at you right now," she said, standing up. "I need space." She left the room, the sound of her footsteps echoing down the hallway, and I sat there alone, drowning in the silence. That night was the worst of my life. I barely slept, replaying everything in my head, the first kiss, the lies, the moments I could have stopped but didn't. I kept hearing her voice, the way it broke when she asked how long. The next morning, Emily didn't say a word to me. She got dressed, grabbed her keys, and left for work without so much as a glance in my direction. I drove to the office in a daze, but the moment I saw Claire, something inside me snapped. "We can't keep doing this," I told her, my voice raw. She looked at me, startled. "What are you talking about?" "Emily knows," I said. "She found out. And I can't. I can't destroy my marriage completely. I can't keep lying to her." Claire's expression hardened. "So that's it? You're just going to run back to her? Pretend like none of this ever happened?" I shook my head, trying to find the right words. "I care about you, Claire. More than I should. But I can't do this anymore. It's tearing me apart." For a moment, I thought she would fight for me. That she would beg me to choose her. But instead, she laughed, a bitter, hollow laugh. "You're a coward, Daniel," she said. "And one day, you're going to regret this." She walked away, and just like that, it was over. But ending the affair didn't fix anything. Emily still barely spoke to me. The house felt cold, heavy with unspoken words. I tried to apologize, to show her I was willing to do anything, therapy, time off work, whatever it took. But every time I reached for her, she pulled away. Weeks turned into months. Some nights she slept in the guest room. Others, she stayed out late, claiming she needed space. I couldn't blame her. I thought I had lost her forever. And then, slowly, painfully slowly, something shifted. One evening, as I sat on the couch staring blankly at the TV, she came into the room and sat beside me. Not close, but not across the room either. "Do you even love me anymore?" she asked quietly. The question broke me. I turned to her, my throat tight, my eyes stinging. "More than anything. I lost myself. I made the worst mistake of my life, and I hate myself for it every day." She studied me for a long time, searching my face like she was looking for proof. And finally, she whispered, "Then prove it." That was the first crack in the wall between us. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. But it was a beginning. "Then prove it." Those 3 words replayed in my mind for weeks. Emily hadn't forgiven me. She hadn't promised anything. But she hadn't left either. And in the fragile silence that followed, I clung to that sliver of hope like a drowning man grasping for driftwood. I started small. I quit staying late at work. I cut ties with Claire completely, deleting her number, her emails, even the old photos and messages I used to scroll through like a guilty addict. When she tried reaching out once, a short, sharp text that simply said, "You'll regret this," I didn't reply. I deleted it instantly and blocked her. I threw myself into Emily's world instead. I cooked dinner, even though I'd never been good at it. I asked about her day, actually listened, and when she wanted space, I gave it to her without complaint. But rebuilding trust is like stitching a wound, you can't rush it, and every movement hurts. Emily was cautious, guarded. She answered my questions with short sentences, avoided eye contact, and slept curled on her side, her back facing me. Sometimes I'd lie there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, aching to reach out and hold her, but too afraid she'd recoil. The hardest part was the jealousy, the suspicion that hung in the air like smoke. If I so much as glanced at my phone, she'd tense. If I mentioned a female coworker in passing, her expression hardened. Once, when I came home late because of traffic, she demanded to see the GPS on my phone. I gave it to her without hesitation, but the hurt in her eyes gutted me more than the interrogation itself. "I can't keep living like this," she whispered that night, her voice breaking. Always wondering if you're lying to me. I know, I said, my throat tight. But I'll spend the rest of my life proving that I'm not. The irony was, I finally meant it. I had tasted the fire of passion, of forbidden love, but it had left me burned and hollow. The one thing I couldn't live without wasn't Claire, it was Emily. But she wasn't the same woman anymore. There was a hardness to her now, a wall I had put there. Sometimes she'd look at me with eyes that felt like they belonged to a stranger. Other times, late at night, I'd catch her watching me, her face soft, as if she wanted to believe in us again but didn't know how. One evening, a few months after the confession, she surprised me. We were sitting at the dinner table, the silence between us thick as always, when she set down her fork and said, "I made an appointment for us. Couples therapy." I blinked. "Really?" She nodded, her gaze steady. "If we're going to even try, we need help. We can't do this alone." Therapy was brutal. Sitting in that room, across from a stranger with a notepad, forced to peel back every layer of our marriage, every wound, every resentment, it was like tearing open an old scar again and again. Emily cried. I cried. We shouted sometimes, said things we regretted, sat in silence when the words wouldn't come. But slowly, painfully, we began to understand each other again. I admitted what Claire had given me, that sense of being wanted, of feeling alive again, and how I had mistaken that hunger for love. Emily admitted that she had felt me slipping away long before the affair, that my silence and distance had left her feeling invisible. "You broke us," she said once, tears streaming down her cheeks. "But maybe we were already breaking, weren't we?" I nodded, sobbing. "Yes. But I should have fought for us. Not run to someone else." There were no easy victories in that room. Just small, fragile steps. A hand held during a hard conversation. A lingering glance that didn't carry anger. The first time she laughed at one of my stupid jokes again, it felt like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. And yet, the past never completely disappeared. One night, months into therapy, Emily asked me a question that shook me to my core. "Do you ever miss her?" I froze. My instinct was to say no, to reassure her instantly. But I had promised honesty. And the truth was complicated. "I miss who I thought I was when I was with her," I said carefully. "I don't miss her. Not anymore. But I miss the feeling. That rush. That escape. And I hate myself for that." Emily was quiet for a long time. Then she whispered, "At least you're honest." She rolled over and turned out the light, and I lay there in the dark, tears slipping silently down my face. It was months, nearly a year, before we finally found ourselves again in the same bed, in the same way, bodies tangled, hearts pounding. It wasn't like before. It was hesitant, almost fragile. But it was real. And afterward, when she rested her head on my chest, I felt something I hadn't in years: hope. The healing wasn't linear. There were setbacks, flare-ups of jealousy, days when the anger returned. But little by little, we began to laugh again, to share inside jokes, to make plans for the future. I knew I would never fully erase the betrayal. It would always be a scar between us. But scars can heal. And sometimes, they make you stronger. The turning point came one evening when Emily looked at me across the table and said, "I don't know if I'll ever forget what you did. But I'm starting to believe I can forgive you." And in that moment, for the first time in years, I let myself believe we might actually make it. Forgiveness is not a single moment. It isn't a dramatic declaration where everything bad suddenly disappears. It's quieter than that. Slower. It sneaks up on you in everyday life. The way she hands you your coffee without hesitation, the way she laughs at something stupid you said, the way she reaches for your hand without realizing it. That's how it happened with Emily. We were still in therapy, still working through the mess I had created, but life began to feel normal again. Not the normal we used to have, not the innocent kind, but a new kind. A cautious, deliberate normal where every choice mattered. The hardest test came almost 2 years after Emily found out. It was a Friday evening.